we're a top 10 sports city
Right,
in this country because of
absolutely.
everything that's based here and everything that happens here. So should the Indy 11 be in the USL Division One? Of course we should. It would be a much bigger story if they weren't. I really think what promotion relegation does it assist the Indy 11 here in Central Indiana? Certainly.
Yes.
But where I really think it kicks in is not necessarily for a given franchise, it's for the entire league. There will be so many more eyeballs that will pay attention to the USL ecosystem because of promotion and relegation.
Hello, welcome to the United Soccer Lounge. My name is Riley James. Thank you so much for watching the show today. We are back here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and today we chat with Greg Rakestraw from Indy 11. He is the play-by-play commentator on television and radio for the club, both men's and women's side, and he is the host of Soccer Saturday on 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan, here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Greg joined the show to talk about the amazing soccer culture here in Indianapolis, possible first division status as we approach promotion relegation here in USL, and plenty more on today's program. Thank you so much to everyone here at Indy 11 to help set this thing up from beautiful Grand Park here in Indianapolis. Thank you so much for watching the show. Please subscribe at Goals TV to the show, like it, share it, comment your favorite things. Obviously subscribe to Goals TV's YouTube channel, but plenty more coming from us as we do our second show here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Thank you so much for watching the show, and here's our interview with Greg Rakestraw. Please welcome to the show the radio and television voice of Indy 11 on the men's and women's side. Please welcome to the program, Greg Rakestraw. Greg, thank you so much for coming to hang out.
Of course, happy to do it.
It's a really cool thing to see soccer do so well in Indy. You know, 12 seasons in, 3 on the women's side, and USL's grown so much in this time. Obviously, we'll talk about promotion relegation down the line.
Sure.
But I want to know how you got started in this, from specifically the soccer side here in Indianapolis.
Sure. Well, as far as the team is concerned, I got started because at the time I was the program director of what was 1070 The Fan. And when the team announced and kind of made their debut at the end of April of 2013, between that and a Chelsea Inter Milan friendly played at Lucas Oil Stadium, about 5,000 season ticket deposits were put down.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, there clearly is something here. So knowing some of the folks behind the scenes, I approached them first about the radio show and said, hey, would you guys be interested in having a weekly radio show? And they're like, yeah, this is great. And then as that kind of developed, then it became, hey, who's doing your play-by-play? Because I had done a handful of high school and collegiate soccer matches, you know, from a streaming/television perspective. So there were a handful of people brought in, I think more so from the color analyst side than from the play-by-play side. I've had the job since day number 1, and I haven't messed it up to the point yet where they've kicked me out after 11 and whatever percentage of season we are through right now.
Right. No, that's the main thing in this job, is just don't get fired
That's
for
right.
anything that you say. That's
The common joke is, how was your broadcast? I did not swear into a live microphone. We had a great broadcast tonight.
So when you look back, obviously we'll talk about the season as it unfolds now, but when you look back over these 11 and change years,
Right.
Is there a call that sticks out to you of a moment that this team has gone through, whether the men's or women's side, that has become your favorite over the time?
Sure. You know, there's a lot of different memories that come flooding back. But if there is one goal, one moment in this franchise, on the men's side, it is what's known as the Miracle to Mike, June 11th of 2016. That was our third of 4 years in the North American Soccer League. And back then you had a spring champ and you had a fall champ, and the spring champ had a playoff berth in hand 5 months later if you won the spring season. The spring season was a sprint. It was 10 games, and the Indy 11 went to the last game of the season knowing if they won, if they scored 4 goals, and if they won by 3, they would win. And the reason that it was such down to the details was the fact 11 teams were in the spring season. The New York Cosmos had the bye last. Yeah. So they had kind of set the bar, and Indy knew exactly what they had to have. That Indy 11 team was really good at playing to 1-0 or 0-0. Yeah. So we're like, okay, beating North Carolina can happen, but winning by 3 and scoring 4, that's like a month for this group. No, that's not going to happen. Well, God rest his soul. Tim Hankinson went to 3 up top, pressed the entire game. Guys played like their hair were on fire. I was probably a little bit more of a homer in the broadcast back then than I am now. And it was like the most laid-back reaction ever to the other team scoring a goal. Indy knew they had 1 goal to play with for North Carolina. And so it was 2 goals in the first half, 2 in the second half. And when when Indy scored the fourth and final goal with about 10 minutes left to go, myself, my broadcast partner Brad Hodder, everybody in the building just kind of went ape at that point in time. So there have been many great moments in the history of the franchise, but if you ask me to pick one, June 11th, 2016 immediately comes to mind. And the funny part about it is now we've come full circle. So one of the players on the field that night was Brad Ring. We have this great, very unplanned shot. There's the, Brickyard Battalion rushes the field. Our camera's panning, and Brad is chugging a beer that he got handed from a fan in celebration. And now Brad does matches with me.
Right.
So I aspire that we can have one of those moments in the broadcast at some point in time down the road now that his playing days are behind.
Well, I appreciate you self-censoring there because this is a family show.
Yes.
I guess so.
Yep.
I don't know how many families sit down and watch the show every
We'll
night.
keep this PG-13, no
yeah,
problem. All good there.
PG-13. No, it's a great thing though. Like I said, the context of the history of what soccer means to this city and what it's been able to turn into. Obviously, with having success in USL Championship, last season's run with the Open Cup, making the semifinal, having a home playoff game for the first time in 5 years. Last year's season, being a part of that, going through that with the team, what did that mean as for the momentum coming into 2025?
Sure. I think you're right. The first playoff home match in 5 years was a big deal.
Yeah.
The Open Cup, I think, was the biggest deal of them all. And I'm not sure if there was this massive ripple effect that happened in terms of more fans coming to Carroll Stadium because the Indy 11 won the Open Cup. But anytime you can say, hey, we're playing at Atlanta United, we're playing at Sporting Kansas City, that gets people's attention. It gave people, and especially that first match against Atlanta United, because it's the first time that the Indy 11 ever beaten an MLS team in a competition, but it also because of the timing and when it happened. It happened in mid-July when there's not that else much going on. And so the Indy 11 kind of was able to dominate the sports conversation for a couple of days, which was really cool. But the best part of that experience to me was the way the Indy 11 treated their fan base for the second match in Kansas City.
Right.
The club had a charter that took everybody in the front office, all the players, and members of the Brickyard Battalion all on one plane together. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. The only dummy that missed that flight was me. I came the next day. But the fact that the team thought enough of the fan base, who have been so supportive for so long, to say, hey, you want to make the trip? We got your ticket, and we got your plane flight. I thought that was beyond cool. And the fans have been so wonderfully giving to our organization over the years. The fact that the team had the foresight to say, let's give back to you, again, beyond cool.
And to see soccer, like I said, grow in this city, to turn what it's turned into, from the start, what has been the progression of the support of this club to what it is in 2025? Well,
this is what's very unique, is that the supporters group, the Brickyard Battalion, was in existence before the team was.
Right.
And so you got to go back to 2011, 2012, then 2013-ish. But you've got a Brickyard Battalion that's got a couple of thousand members that are active and saying, hey, we got to bring, it's been a decade since the Indiana Blast at the time, was playing professional soccer here in the market. Ursal Ozdemir comes in. He goes out and gets Peter Wilt, who is a pretty legendary, builder of soccer culture and soccer franchises. And then it grows from there. And like I told you at the start of the interview, this team ended up having 7,000 season ticket holders before the first match was played on April the 11th or April 12th rather of 2014. So, that's pretty significant. So, the support has been there. And it's nice now that we're kind of in decade number 2, and that support really hasn't changed. And obviously, as USL Championship franchises go, I think we're in the top 3 or 4 consistently. Ourselves, Louisville, New Mexico, Sacramento, maybe to a slightly lesser just because of kind of the seating limitations in Hamtramck, Detroit City. Would kind of be in that group where it's usually those 4 or 5 that from an attendance standpoint, but also a passion standpoint. It's that kind of group that leads our league.
And that leads us to promotion relegation.
Sure.
The process of, giving automatic promotion to that first division, obviously it's an application process through the league.
Sure.
Indy 11 has a very strong case.
Correct.
The stadium situation is what it is, but even the stadium right now it would fit the bill for that first division.
Yep. Absolutely.
What is the hope and what is the talks of that in the organization of possibly getting that first division in 2027?
I think we would be a deserving candidate in terms of market size, attendance, just the overall scope of our operation.
Yeah.
There are few that kind of match all of those things, if it's the overlapping Venn diagram, the Indy 11's in the center of that circle, I mean, we're a major league city, you know, and I talk about this almost from a broadcast administrative hosting standpoint. You know, market size, Indy's in the 20s if you're a television market, 30s if you're in the radio side of things. We're a top 10 sports city in this country because of everything that's based here and everything that happens here. So should the Indy 11 be in the USL Division I? Of course we should. It would be a much bigger story if they weren't. I really think what promotion relegation does it assist the Indy 11 here in Central Indiana? Certainly.
Yes.
But where I really think it kicks in is not necessarily for a given franchise, it's for the entire league. There will be so many more eyeballs that will pay attention to the USL ecosystem because of promotion and relegation.
Absolutely.
Because you have that drama just as much at the bottom of the table as you're at the top of the table, and it's not what MLS is doing right now. So is it a benefit to the Indy 11? Yes, but it's the benefit of 38 clubs right now that play in the championship in League One, and so many more that I think will be coming in before we get to Pro Rel in 27 and 28.
Yeah, and adding in competition like Premier League has first through four going to the Champions League, adding in something like that for the top four, and then obviously the bottom three heading down on the relegation side of things. It makes all these middle of the season games mean something as you get down to the wire, which is what American soccer has lacked since we even back in NASL days, but definitely since MLS started in '96.
And we have this unique soccer culture here. You've got some people that'll go, well, it's American soccer. I only watch European soccer or South American soccer or Liga MX. Again, I think it will attract more of those fans.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And now the question then is, all right, hey, it's always great when you've got extra, eyeballs on ESPN Plus, CBS Sports Golazo, and the great. One thing our league does exceedingly well is put matches on linear television, whether it's ESPN2, big CBS Sports Network, et cetera. Now then the big thing is, all right, can you convert those eyeballs? Can you convert those to butts in the seats?
Right.
And that's the impact that happens a year or two into this. At least we all hope that's the case.
Even a very small percentage of what USL's landscape is our show, right? And we do interviews, and we try to schedule it out with big things happening in the club.
Yep.
And we interviewed Tyler Gibson last year.
Yeah.
He was with Indy 11 before you guys played on CBS against Louisville. And even the uptick that we saw in our show of people excited and wanting to hear what Tyler had to say about playing on CBS was a massive thing, even just for something as small as what we do in the grand scheme of USL.
Yeah.
So having CBS and having ESPN Plus and having all these things that the league has been able to do, it's been a really, really cool thing from the media standpoint. I do want to ask you a couple broadcast questions. As someone who is a student of television, a student of sports, I'm curious, as someone who works for a team, how do you prepare for a game to make sure that, obviously you know all of the Indy guys, but the opposing team, what's the process to prepare for the opposing team? And obviously on the call, you're leaning towards Indy a little bit, but how do you combat the maybe being too much of a homer?
So it's twofold. In terms of preparation, the league is wonderful in terms of the stats that are available. Every match being, I can go back and scout, just like a coach would, things like that. But basically, I try to have a paragraph on every player. I know that, I use a musical term, it's staccato. You want to get in and get out in terms of information. So I've got, like, this is where this guy has played, this is where he's from, this is where he's played his college soccer, this is his age, this is what his stats are. But I have it written out in conversational form. I am rarely just reading a straight paragraph off a piece of paper during a game, but kind of typing that process out during the course of the week helps. And you're right. My prep for our guys, when you're on the beat, so to speak, when you're living it, it's a matter of updating stats and tracking records and things of that nature. To the second point you make, again, it is something to where I'm going to be a little more excited for the home team. It's the community I live in. It's the players that I know. But I think you can be more excited for the home team as long as you are fair and respectful to the other team.
Right.
And as long as you are knowledgeable about the other team and you tip your cap when necessary. Let's be honest, we're having this conversation on the heels of the Charleston Battery coming to town and smoking us, all right? Yeah. And they are really good. So believe me, it was not hard to give the proper credit to what M.D. Myers did last week. He scored like 5 goals in 90 minutes of soccer between playing in the Open Cup on Tuesday and what he did. Juan David Torres was phenomenal.
Yeah.
The goal that Rodriguez hit was tremendous. That was up for one of the goals of the week in terms of the USL Championship. So, again, I'm always going to lean a little towards the Indy 11. If you notice, I'm kind of known for the cue the smoke phrase in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
There's probably a little more gusto behind it in the NASL days than say the USL Championship days. But as long as you're knowledgeable and acknowledge what the other guy does well, I think you can walk that line.
And it's so interesting. I've talked to broadcasters about this in all the different sports. To be able to manage that in real time.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy to say that beforehand, but what some of these guys are able to do on air, because there's so many things going through your mind. Obviously, it's a live game. You got to keep up with what you're doing, but also to have the wherewithal to keep yourself left center. You know?
Sure, absolutely.
It's a really great thing. And I respect broadcasters so much for that.
Well, thank you. I would say if you're 55, 45, 60, 40, that's a close enough percentage.
Right.
You get to 75, 25, 80, 20, we're having a different conversation.
So I'll end on this. Thank you so much for coming
Sure.
to hang out with us. I know you got a busy schedule today. The next couple of years, with Division I possibly coming to the city, with promotion relegation coming, with the growth, with a great team and a great coach, what do you hope the next couple of years look like for Indy 11?
I hope we see more postseason success.
Yeah.
You know, there have been kind of flashes of that. 2016 playing for the Soccer Bowl championship in the NASL days. 2019 being seconds away from hosting the championship final, and then kind of walking in the wilderness, you know, for 4 years and not reaching the playoffs until 2023. Again, so many of the things behind the scenes, front office, sponsorships, ticket sales, the academy program, Indy 11 is top notch at all of those things. The on-field product has been just slightly behind that.
Right.
Again, I think all the pieces are in place. If we can get to that status, like Louisville has been since day one, like Charleston has been over the course of the last couple of years, if we can get in that upper echelon every year where you simply know, hey, he's going to be a top 3 or top 4 club in the USL Championship, that's my goal for the next couple of years, hoping that another tier then awaits for this franchise.
Absolutely. And then, you know, we didn't even talk about the women's team. The women's team plays here. They have this absolutely beautiful complex. I want to give Grand Park just a moment of just, it's a beautiful place. To be able to have the women's team too has been a really, really great thing.
And again, Indy has treated that as a first-class professional operation since day one. Just the luck of the draw. And I'm sure, again, all the things I talk about the club behind the scenes is the reason why the first ever W League game took place right behind you in May of 2022. Indy 11 and Kings Hammer played in that first match. You know, and Indy has made the quarterfinal round at least all 3 years. But even though it is pre-professional, the ladies that have played for this club have always been treated in a very professional manner. Again, it just kind of goes to what this club has been about since day number one.
And we chatted with Grace Barr last year on the show, and she talked about that and what that entailed, and obviously what Indy 11 has done, not only for the men's side, which they got to see, but the women's side, talking about treating them like professional players and doing everything first class and giving them everything that they would need. It's a really, really cool thing. So much congratulations to you on the success you've had in your career, and obviously Indy 11 the last couple of seasons. But thank you so much, Greg, for making time for us.
Anytime.
Thank you so much to everyone here in Indianapolis, Indiana, to help make this happen. Everyone from Indy 11, Greg Rakestraw, he zoomed all over the city to record things for his show and my show, so we're super thankful for that. This wonderful facility here at Grand Park in Indianapolis. It's been a great couple of shows. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with us on the internet, you can, at RileyJamesIAC for Instagram and X. The show has an Instagram account, at US On Goals. The parent company, Goals.tv, on Instagram, at Goals_TV on X, and really great content from all the creators around the world, including the entire catalog of this show, available on www.goals.tv. That'll do it for us. Thank you so much for watching the show. We'll be back next week, but for now, for Greg Rakestraw, I'm Riley James, if anyone cares.